I'd like to call the February 16th, 2021 meeting of the Buncombe County Commission to order. Thank you all for being with us this evening. Let's begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise and join us in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you again for being with us for our February 16th, 2021 meeting. Before we begin our meeting this evening, I wanted to acknowledge the passing of Mayor Bette Stroud. Mayor Stroud served the town of Weaverville for many, many years as mayor and on the town council and in other community service capacities. The town of Weaverville issued a short statement, and I'd like to just read it, please. It is with sadness that the town of Weaverville notes the passing of former Mayor Mary Bette Stroud. She served as mayor from 1993 to 2009, after having served on town council for 4 years. In a 2009 article about her in the Citizen Times, Bette pointed to her legacy for the town as trees and helping to enhance the small town atmosphere. She was instrumental in establishing and growing the town's tree board and in receiving the annual Tree City designation, among many other projects that were near and dear to her. Bette was passionate that the town be walkable, assuring that the town planned for and built the sidewalk system that now links Lake Louise to Main Street and beyond. She also spearheaded the protection of land that now comprises the nature park. The town of Weaverville is a far better place for having had Bette as our leader. So I'd like to just ask for a moment of silence to remember the life and service of Mayor Bette Stroud, a great member of our community. Please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you very much. I would like to read the ethics reminder to the board. In accordance with the code of ethics adopted by the board, all county commissioners have a duty to obey all applicable laws regarding official actions, to uphold the integrity and independence of the office, to avoid impropriety in the exercise of official duties, to faithfully perform the duties of the office, and to conduct the affairs of the governing board in an open and public manner. Is there any item on the agenda, the outcome of which would have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact for any board member? Does any board member have a financial interest in any public contract coming before the board today? There being none, all board members have a duty and obligation to vote on any matters voted by the board at this meeting. We now come to the consent agenda. Are there any questions about any items on the consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as well as to follow the remainder of our agenda as published?
So move.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we now come to public comment. Mr. Joyner, are there any members of the public who have signed up to speak to the board tonight?
Yes, we have one person who is registered and to be prompted now.
Great.
I'll read my less than 3-minute statement. And please, my name is Susan Bridgers, one of your District 3 constituents and a serious voter. I live in the Anka Hills neighborhood of 50 single-family homes near Sand Hill and Sardis Roads intersection. And from my front porch, I hear the Jacob Home plant noise because the Anka Commerce Campus property abuts the Anka Hills neighborhood. So this noise has been increasing over the past 6 years. So I ask for your help in putting into the county noise ordinance language mandating commercial entities keep their noise and sound pollution to a decibel standard below the World Health Organization's guidelines for community noise, which says the decibel level should be below 50. I've recorded noise from my front porch at triple that level. The noise produced by the Jacob Home plant affects our community of quality of life and the values of our property. In November 2020, the current plant manager sent a letter saying the new noise mitigation effort would go into place early December. But last week she said by email she had intended that it would go into place early February, meaning this month, but the weather prevented her. While recently the noise has lessened somewhat, it is still noticeable, as is the beeping alarm sound that runs without abatement some days. The last manager said that warning alarm was, that beeping was a warning alarm that staffers couldn't hear inside the building and never thought to do anything about it. While I've complained to you commissioners and asked for action on this issue in the past several years, with you and the plant managers, nothing's been done yet, citing the county noise ordinance exception for commercial entities. And though the current plant manager says she's mitigating the noise by virtue of her kind graces, we can't depend on any adherence to any non-existent law or ordinance governing noises in the county. I don't expect her to fully fix the noise issuance from her facility because several attempts haven't gotten us there. So to add to this noise pollution, I also worry that the new Haycon plant being built near Jacob Home and now the new distribution warehouse near the Inca Tower will add to this industrial noise disturbance, further damaging our quality of life and value of our property. Before the Haycon plant is finished being built and while the Jacob Home is considering their efforts of mitigation, please remove the noise ordinance exception for commercial entities and then please enforce that the businesses adhere to this more reasonable noise ordinance rule. So again, I ask that the Buncombe County Noise Ordinance Exception number 4, excluding the commercial and industrial enterprises on this noise code, be changed. And when changed, that the noise rules be enforced. So I'm available for consultation on this at any time to help put this change in place. Please let me know how to get this agenda on your agenda to address. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for taking time to address the board. We appreciate hearing from you. All right, we don't typically respond to public comments. This is just for our time to listen, let the public speak. So we appreciate you taking time to share your perspective on that issue with us tonight. All right, next up, we have a couple of presentations. One from our different community boards and public sector partners. One of them is, we're going to hear from the Metropolitan Sewerage District, and Tom Harty is here to talk to us about MSD. Tom, thanks for being with us.
There we go. Thank you. Chairman Newman, Vice Chairman Whitesides, Commissioners, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk on behalf of MSD and the fine work the organization does. I know that these are trying times, and we appreciate your leadership and dedication to the community. My intent is to give a very short background for those who are not familiar with MSD, and then just go over some recent projects. Where do I point it?
You don't have to aim it at anything, just
Oh.
make sure it's on the side of the controller.
Okay.
Just push right here. Yeah. Turn it
All
on.
right. All right, thank you. By way of history, MSD was formed in 1962 by state statute as a special district for the sole purpose to collect and treat wastewater and to eliminate direct discharge into the surrounding rivers and streams. As you know, most water and wastewater utilities are done with municipalities. This is a special district, so we're a different animal than most. Between 1962 and 1989, MSD built 100 miles of large interceptors. These are the trunk lines, the big lines, and put in a treatment plant for 25 million gallons a day. The treatment plant was later upgraded to a 40 MGD, million gallons a day, in the mid-90s. In 1990, all the local governments and special districts gave their collection lines, which amounted to about 720 miles, to MSD for ownership and maintenance, and something we call sewer consolidation. This was done by agreement with all the entities. These are the entities that were involved in 1990. There are 5 municipalities there and 10 special districts. Just this last year, in July of 2020, we added yet another service area, and that is from Cane Creek in northern Henderson County. That added another 50 square miles in northern Henderson County. This is our board. We have 14 board members. It's a regional board, and highlighted there is, and thank you for your service, Nathan Pennington and Robert Presley and Al Whitesides. I appreciate your service to our board and leadership. This is the picture of our treatment plant that's located in Woodfin along the French Broad River. This is, again, a 40 million gallon a day, rated at 40 million gallon a day. It averages about 20 million gallon a day. So there's capacity there, but there's old processes that we're upgrading as we go along here. We're a very unique utility in that we have a hydroelectric facility. You can see the plant there is the whitish area, and then you'll see a dam and the flume, and the red arrow points to our hydroelectric facility, which generates 2,880 kilowatts. And this doesn't have enough power to provide for the whole plant, but it does reduce the amount of power costs we need, and the power that we need, and to the tune of about $400,000 to $500,000 worth of electricity each year. That's just a picture back in 1903 when this was originally dedicated, the Craggy Dam hydro plant. Early on, it provided Asheville with power along with the electric streetcars at the time. And in 1986, it decommissioned in the 50s, and we reconstructed it in 1986. Just to give you a slice of our finances, everybody wants to know where the money goes. This is the expenditure side of things. Things to note are the big maroon construction project, and the orange, the debt service. That's all construction related. And then the brown there is operation and maintenance, which is a little less than a third. Most utilities have the flip of that. They typically have about half to two-thirds is their operational costs, and they'll spend about a third on capital. We're very aggressive on capital expenditures. Why? Because all these lines that we've taken over are old, and we're in the midst of a growth spurt, so we're providing for the future as well. So that's why we're spending so much on capital. Let me go back here. No. Okay, one of the slides fell out there. What I'd like to say on the revenue slide, it must have dropped out, that 60% of revenue is residential commercial, and about 5% is industrial, only 5%. But we have about 30% bond money. And why do we do that? Well, because of that construction. We don't want to put the burden for when we upsize these lines, we replace lines, we upsize them for the future. We don't want to put the burden on all the existing customers for the future customers. So we use a healthy dose of bond money to spread out that burden to go throughout time. So I wanted to make that point. It wasn't a slide there. Okay, some projects here that we have going. Plant Headworks project that we just finished is about a $10 million project. It involved doing some fine screenings and influent bar screens and vortex grit units and some equalization pump storage. All that at the headworks of the plant. That has been completed, and this just shows the effectiveness of it. It basically doubled the removal of our solids at the front end of the plant, which really helps the rest of the treatment process. High rate primary clarification is a project, a $17 million project that we're about 90% complete now. We're in the midst of it. It's a new technology. It's a ballasted flocculation process, and the reason we need to use this technology, which is usually just used in water, drinking water, the reason we have to use that because we have very little space with which to work at our plant site because we have French Broad River on one side and we've got a cliff on the other, or a rock out cliff on the other, and we have to replace existing processes with these new processes. And as you can see here, basically it's like surgery. We have to take out a previous process, put this process in, meanwhile keeping the plant running the entire time. So it gets to be a bit of an ordeal. This is the picture of the progress in spring of 2020. And this is the progress as of fall 2020. We hope to be done with this project and fully operational by the end of the summer. Our next big project coming up is our Carrier Bridge Pump Station. This serves all the areas south Asheville, western Buncombe County, and northern Henderson County. This station was originally constructed in the 60s. We're going to upgrade it for the 50-year horizon, and it's about a $30 million project, and we're in the midst of design. This gives a little closer view of exactly where we are. There's Amboy Ridge bridge going across there. Our existing pump station site is over there to the left, and the new proposed site is right next to it. That's the French Broad River there. New station will be probably about 70 to 75 feet deep, and this because we have to catch all the interceptor lines, and this pumps everything from the south, and it's going to have to pump it across the river. There are a couple of technologies that go to cross the river with. One's open cut, one's tunneling, and one's boring. They're all fairly disruptive and expensive, but necessary to get across the river. One option, creative option that we are considering is to provide a pedestrian bridge that was never built as a part of the Wilma-Dykeman Greenway, and possibly get in a partnership with the city of Asheville to put this pedestrian bridge across the river and put our force mains underneath it, which would maybe be a win-win for both of us. All that money and capital improvement, just wanted to show this slide. This shows the difference from year 2000 to 2020 about overflows, and basically it's reflecting the number of overflows per 100 miles per year. And we've reduced it 20-fold from 36 down to 1.8. And that's pretty much where we've been focusing our last 20 years and will continue to focus in the future. That's all I had. Quick and dirty.
All right, thank you so much, Tom. We appreciate you taking time to come give us some updates. We're trying to check in with our boards and public partners more often, and this is great to hear. I know some of our board members get the detailed information all the time since they serve on the board.
I like Al Whiteside's mask. Very nice. Very good.
Commissioners, are there any questions for Tom while we've got him here?
I would like to comment and say that, you know, my time on the board, and I have to commend Tom and his staff at MSD with the good job they do. And I'm sure Robert agrees with Nate, because they run a good ship down there. And I've been impressed and enjoyed being on the board working with all of you, Tom. It's been a good experience.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right, thank you so much, Tom. We appreciate it. Thank you for all your great work and your whole team at MSD. All right, next up, we're going to hear from the Asheville Buncombe Regional Sports Commission, and Jim Bradford, the president, is here to talk to us about the Sports Commission.
Let's see. Yep. Good evening. Thank you for having me come in to speak tonight, and I'd like to thank you all of the commissioners for your support, but especially Commissioner Edwards, who serves on our board, and also staff members Tim Love and Peyton O'Connor. This has, as you know, been a difficult year for all of us. But I think we've had some good strides. So we're going to kind of take you through the last year from the Sports Commission standpoint. The year started really great. We started off with the Gala Gymnastics in January, and the Gala Gymnastics event is in its 9th year of existence, and it started with 72 gymnasts at UNC Asheville. And you can see it is evolved to 1,443. That was a record number of gymnasts. We have 2 floors in the Harris Cherokee Center, Asheville. And then also, it's a 4-day event on the second week in January. So it is a time where we've just come off of Biltmore Christmas and things have really slowed down, and it is a great economic impact driver at over $2.1 million. And of course, then we went into the Southern Conference Championships this year. And this year was very unique. This past year was very unique in that we did sell out the semifinals and the finals. We were very fortunate with our partnership with Buncombe County Schools to have over 5,000 school children attend the Thursday and Friday 11 a.m. games. We had over 700 children. We were a little bit chilly this past year, so we had a little bit drop, but we had over 700 children attend the downtown dribble where we give out a basketball, t-shirt, we have entertainment, and then they are able to attend the Saturday game of the tournament. So that's a very exciting time. We also involve a lot of our school groups to come in and do national anthems and also provide our color guards. So those are, we try to make that not only a college basketball tournament, but an entire community event. The championship game last year was on ESPN, and this was a really good event for us. Little did we know that on Monday night we would finish, and Thursday at lunch, the whole world stopped, especially with sports. I was on the Wise Guys radio station when the ACC announced that the tournament had completed and that the NCAA tournament would not happen, and then everything went from there. So as you can see, we lost a lot, and this is just a snapshot. Lost a lot of events. We lost golf, CrossFit. We have a great lacrosse community here, soccer community here, our Spartan race, cycling events, and, the list is on there, our grapple wrestling tournament, and again, the Gala Gymnastics event this January. So we saw a drastic loss of events this year because of COVID-19. However, we did receive the opportunity to host the relocation of the Maui Invitational Tournament. And we work with an event partner, Kemper Lesnick, who is one of the, I'm sure you've heard Kemper Sports. Kemper Lesnick is the parent group of Kemper Sports. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to each one of you and the entire Department Health and Human Services staff who worked with us tirelessly to put together protocols to bring this event to town. As we were competing with the likes of Las Vegas, Orlando, Chicago, Indianapolis, the bottom line was we had a plan, and no other community had a plan. No, everyone said, come to our city, come to our community, but we had a plan that was developed through Buncombe County Health and Human Services and the great staff and Tim's help, and then also with the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. This was a unique event for us because it had no spectators, no fans, but there were 12 games on ESPN or ESPN2. I received some information today that there were over 3.7 million viewers. 3 of the games had over 500,000 viewers, and the championship game had 454,000 viewers. At the time, we had two top 20 AP teams in UNC and Texas. I think Texas has risen up a little higher right now, and some of the other teams have done a little bit better. So it was a great event. The conferences were some of the premier conferences in the tournament, in the country. The most interesting thing is everybody said, what is Plating Change? So Plating Change was Camping World came in at the last minute as a sponsor. And Camping World donated, for every three-pointer, money to the different communities to assist with hunger initiatives. So, like in our community, it would have been someone like Eblin, but they went into each one of the communities. And this event, because of the number of three-pointers that were made, was over $489,000. So that was a great opportunity that we didn't even know about. It was a whole new world. You can see that, we knew that we could not control, but we tried to mitigate the risk. You can see some of the things that we did. All of the players were tested with PCR testing, and you can see the social distancing in the meeting rooms and all the different, this is what Thanksgiving dinner looked like for the ones of us who were in the bubble. So special thanks to Ingalls. It was actually very delicious. But you can see it was a different time. But the impact was not on the hotels alone. There were 877 hotel room nights generated. There were 630 room nights generated for the support staff, for a total of 1,507 hotel room nights, leading from the Tuesday before Thanksgiving up through the Monday after Thanksgiving. The average daily rate of the hotels was $185. And so you can see that also they spent over $237,000 on food and beverage, and the average team spent almost $30,000 on food and beverage. I think the other impact that was the most emotional part for me was I was thanking one of our workers at the Harris Cherokee Center, Asheville, and she said, "No, thank you." She said, "Because of this event, I'm working right now, and I was furloughed, and I am now able, with the amount of work I've had, to pay for my Christmas for my child." And that was a very humbling moment for me. So we can see that the real winner was Asheville and Buncombe County, with over a total business spend of over $1.5 million. This year, usually when we report to you our economic impact. We now call that our event value calculation. So our sports event value calculation, which we added our grapple in from the year before, but it was $10.6 million. How does that compare? If I had given a report last year, the economic or the event impact would have been over $23 million. So for 1920, we were at $23.1 million. So that you can tell the difference there. What are some current obstacles that are facing us, that we face right now with sport tourism? Of course, we have sport guidelines that determine which sports can be played in the state of North Carolina. One of our most popular sports here is wrestling. Wrestling right now is in the red category, so it's not allowed. Basketball, interestingly enough, even though high school basketball is allowed, basketball is in the red. So it's been a very difficult time. Of course, the mass gatherings limitations that we all face, the question of whether you test or not, and then the cost of testing. I do want to go back to the Maui Invitational and make sure that everyone does know that all of our testing was sourced with the North Carolina company Mako, but none of the testing itself negatively impacted any residents of Buncombe County. We wanted to make sure that there was nothing that negatively impacted our community. Facilities availability, we still lack a lot of some of the facilities. We've discussed that in prior years, our facilities needs analysis and what facilities we need. And then also some of the rentals for the facilities. And this is a very competitive market, and a lot of facilities are being given free to events rights holders. And then a lot of people are asking for higher bid fees right now. And then also, we live in this community, and we all know that sometimes our hotel rates are a little bit more expensive, especially in the summertime. So when we're trying to recruit baseball events for Bob Lewis Park, it is sometimes difficult for us because our summertime hotel rates are a little bit more expensive. So those are some of the obstacles that we face. But we want to continue to build for the future in sports tourism. We feel that the future is bright and turning around. As you know, we will host in 2 weeks the Southern Conference basketball tournament. We look forward to returning the Grapple wrestling tournament, and we feel like that is a niche market for us with wrestling in Western North Carolina. Tennis, we've been in discussions, continue to be in discussions with U.S. Tennis Association, hopefully to bring another Fed Cup, which is now called the Billie Jean King Cup, or a Davis Cup to Asheville or another event. We continue to have discussions about additional college basketball events. Cycling is huge in our community. As you know, we hosted the Oat Route for 2 years before that organization decided to focus on Europe. And then gymnastics with Gala Gymnastics and many others. Also, it was announced yesterday that the Asheville-Buncombe Regional Sports Commission was chosen the 2001 All-Star Destination Partner of the Year by Sports Events Travel Magazine, and then also that the 2020 Camping World Maui Invitational was the best live or virtual sports event for 2020. And we could not have done either one of those without all of the staff of Buncombe County and everyone who has worked with us. And your support financially and just your support in general. So thank you very much for your support, and we look forward to a better, brighter 2021, and look forward to working with you even more. Are there any questions?
All right, Dim, thank you so much for the presentation. We know it's been, as you said, it's uniquely challenging for everybody, but this is part of that, and we appreciate you working hard to navigate it successfully and safely. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Dim, thank you so much. Y'all, I'm telling you, this is the best and most fun board to serve on, especially as a sports freak. Dim, congratulations to you and Madison and Andrew on these awards. It is so exciting. I have to tell y'all, I squealed like a little girl last night when I saw that you all had won. It made me very proud to be a part of the organization, and much credit to your leadership and the team that you have around you.
Well, it is definitely part of my team. I have a very strong team. And so thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Dimp. It's great to hear all the great work, and keep it up. And we're looking forward to getting beyond these issues, too, that have affected all of us, including your important work. All right. Commissioners, Ms. Pender, do you have any items under the county manager's report?
I do have a quick
Sure.
comment. There's 2 items I want to bring you up to speed on. The first is Advanced Monument Task Force. And as you recall, they made a recommendation to remove the Advanced Monument on November 19th. The task force made that presentation to you on December 7th, and the board did vote to accept that recommendation. At that time, you asked me to work with the city of Asheville on next steps. On Thursday, February the 4th, the task force met to finalize the report and to create a list of any African Americans who could be honored on the new site if the monument was removed. That report would be routed to the commissioners by the end of this month, and at this point, the task force has completed its initial charge. Since the vote on December 7th, we have worked with city staff on gathering more information on developing an implementation plan. This work has included developing a bid request to solicit proposals for the removal and the destruction of the Vance Monument. The bid was released on January the 8th, and it closed on January 28th. The bids have been collected and are being reviewed right now by the city. The recommended bid, along with any costs, will first be presented to the city council at one of its March meetings. The plan is to also present options for the temporary use of the site until a permanent plan can be developed. That information will then be presented to the Board of Commissioners at its next available meeting after it goes through City Council. The second item I want to bring you up to speed on is the community reparations and where we are with that. County staff has worked to develop a draft racial equity plan that ties to the direction that was given in the resolution that was adopted last August. Our equity and inclusion team, the team leads presented to you an update on last December the 7th. And we've been having several planning and brainstorming meetings with the City of Asheville staff. Those meetings included potential structure of a newly created Community Reparations Commission. We've had discussions around scope and developing a list of facilitators that could help us support and move that work forward. Additionally, we've had discussions with other communities, and we're doing research around the topics of reparations. We're also meeting with technical experts who have long studied the issue of reparations. We hope to bring a recommendation back to the board either in the last meeting in March or the early first meeting in April. And that would give you a plan of how we can progress with implementation and the structure of the committee and any potential charge or consistent with the resolution that you give us. So we're looking to bring that back either the end of March or first part of April on that. Any questions?
I don't think so at this time. Thank you for the updates.
Thank you.
All right, we do not have any public hearings. We do not have any old business. We come to new business, and the first item is a discussion of gift card policy. And Ron Venturella and Mason Scott are gonna present this item.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Ron Venturella. I'm the Procurement Manager for the Finance Department, and with me tonight is Mason Scott, the Business Officer in the Finance Department. And tonight we're requesting approval for the revised gift card policy. In October 2018, the Board of Commissioners approved 7 procurement-related policies that currently make up our procurement manual. They were created to provide guidance in key procurement methods and processes. One of those was the gift card policy. And that policy was designed to provide organizational-wide standards for gift card management, a centralized procurement method for purchasing gift cards, and to limit the use of gift cards for specific areas.
Good evening. Tonight we are proposing 2 revisions to the gift card policy. The first revision you see is to align this policy with other policies in the procurement manual. So currently, the gift card policy language indicates that procurement cards, Buncombe County credit cards cannot be used to purchase gift cards in practice, and according to the procurement card policy, we can actually purchase gift cards with credit cards under the strict control of the Finance Department. Right now, there are currently 1 employee and 1 credit card that have been authorized to purchase credit cards for county use. So the green language you see here is to clarify those controls and just to align with the other documents that are within the procurement manual. The next revision you'll see here is to address reorganization in the county since this policy was originally adopted in 2018. So on the slide that Ron showed, one of the original goals of this policy is to limit the use of gift cards to things that are reasonably benefiting the public. We've mainly focused that use in provision of human services. And in 2018, when this policy was adopted, It made sense that most human services operated under the umbrella of the Health and Human Services Department. So the red language that you see struck through explicitly calls out Health and Human Services in the current version of the policy. Since that time, however, there has been some restructuring so that human services fall sometimes outside of the HHS department. An example there is our Justice Services Group, which includes Family Justice Center, jail diversion, and several other programs. And so the green replacement language that you see there is basically to make sure that the policy can meet its intent regardless of where those programs are actually sitting in the organizational structure of the county. So we think these are two very simple changes. As Ron mentioned, you all approved this policy in 2018 as a commission. We want to bring it back to you for your consideration and request approval unless there are any concerns. So do you all have any questions for us?
I guess my only question would be, I mean, the changes sound reasonable to me. Is there, obviously this was an issue that got a lot of attention a few years ago, right? And so the commission wanted to come in and help do everything we could to tighten this up and make sure there was no potential for misuse of gift cards that do have a legitimate, and an efficient role to play in helping with different public services. Is just going forward, right? I think we'll probably approve this tonight, but into the future, this won't be on people's radar screens in the way it has been in the past. So is there a mechanism whereby we can kind of continue to assure that that this is transparent and people can kind of see this, so that some of the issues that we had in the past, that there's not the potential for them to arise again as this kind of fades from public attention? Like how I guess I'm asking for sort of like, how will these policies be made transparent and with enough profile that it will continue to be something that is on, people can identify and understand what the process is?
So from a broader policy perspective, I also sit on the policy review committee for the county, and we are making a major effort to be more transparent in our systems and controls. We're going through a mass rewrite of many policies, and we're working on rebuilding our public-facing website to make these accessible directly by the public. So that'll be a piece of that.
And I'm just sort of thinking out loud here. So just for example, these revisions would call for the creation of the only person who could procure the gift cards would be a gift card liaison who would be designated by the county's chief financial officer. So just for example, is there a way that we could make who that designated person is transparent? I don't know, where's the appropriate place to sort of regularly disclose that? Maybe it's in a budget document or some other type of regular report, but just so people know, like, this is the person who sort of trusted to be overseeing this and to make sure all use of the procured cards are going to fully legitimate county purposes.
So we do have a very strict tracking process for the P cards now. I think I would have to defer to some others on how appropriate it is to put that name out there for that purpose. I think we would want to be very careful about how we're publishing it, but it is something that we control and do track internally and have that information that can be made available.
We can put the position out there.
So the position could be posted.
Okay. Can I just ask, what would be the reason to not just disclose this is who this person is? And it would change from time to time, of course, over time. It would be different people serving in this role, right?
So right now, we've actually designated the position of procurement officer to be that person. So whoever sits in that role would be that one person. So we have not designated it, and Ron, you can come on up. Don is standing up, but we've designated, and that person happens to be Mr. Ron, who's the procurement officer. He oversees all purchasing for the county. So if there's any expense going out for gift card, it has to go through Ron. So he's that designated person. So anyone sitting in that role, if Ron were to leave us, that person would be the one responsible at this time.
Yeah, and that is something that we keep track of in the finance department as far as who can serve in that role, and I would be the one that would designate them. It would be easy enough to provide you with that information. We would not want to provide any information on who the gift cards are going to because those are sensitive areas, you know that. But it's definitely something we could do. I don't know how often you would want that information, so we can definitely look into that and come back to you and find out what's appropriate.
I would like to ask for that. You know, I mean, again, I think this is fully legitimate. I think this is a good plan. But I mean, I think as we learned, like this is, of its nature, it is something that is susceptible to misuse, right? Because we're talking about these gift cards have almost a dollar for dollar face value.
Well, they're the
So
same
it
as
is
same as
something I
handing
think we
somebody
just need
cash.
to have very careful protocols on and transparency around who is responsible for this as it is, you know, managed into the future.
Yeah, and Ron is the only one that can actually procure the actual gift cards. Once they're handed off to a department, they have an inventory system where they are tracking them, so they're fully aware of who's getting them, who's they're being dispersed to, and those get audited. So it's not like they're just a pile of cards sitting in somebody's desk and they're handing them out willy-nilly. So they are being monitored.
Commissioners, other questions or thoughts about policy?
No, and Don, did I hear, I can't talk with this, did I hear right? It's the procurement officer who's responsible for that.
Right, I have designated that to
I
him.
don't think I don't like putting the name of the individual out there as long as we know who the officer is.
There's no harm in saying that Ron is the person that can purchase those gift cards. But we would not ever disclose who the gift cards are going to. That would be the piece that we would never want to disclose.
Don, do you envision that it would most likely be the procurement officer would be the position? I mean, so I guess one question would be, why not simply, rather than say it's a person to be designated by the chief financial officer, why do we not just sort of designate that as it is the procurement officer?
Yeah.
That way, going forward, you know, everyone is very clear about this is the position that we're entrusting with being in that role,
Right.
procuring them for legitimate purposes, and then as they're then distributed out to the departments who use them, you know, there's a process after that.
Yeah, and we had discussion about that. What this does is it gives us the ability, if we ever want to expand it, to where I need somebody in HHS to be that designated person because they're having so many gift card requests that Ron can't keep up with it, because he does have many other things that he needs to do. It just gives that flexibility. If we were to go that route and actually assign it, like I said, we can come back and report it to you. Similar to like when we have to designate another deputy finance officer, we could make that a practice.
I would like that. And then, and again, and Avril, I'm sure you will not take offense when I say this, but if you can just imagine if this policy said to be designated by the county manager, like the flags that would automatically raise. We all trust the people who are working for us today, but just from a structural standpoint, I think we just want to know like who is in that role, right? So if y'all could think about that and maybe just think about ways
Yeah.
to report to the commission, here's who it is. If it changes in the future, that is simply disclosed, I think is appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a problem. We bringing this forward, we knew this would be a sensitive discussion, so.
Okay. All right, any other questions or is there a motion?
I move that we approve the change.
Policy as amended.
Policy approved, yeah.
But with the extension that we will put not just a person, but the procurement officer,
Right.
whomever. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
I'll second that.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to approve this with the understanding the staff are going to kind of work on a protocol for disclosure of the administration of it going on a going forward basis and come back to us with some more details on how that'll work. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. All right, next up is a discussion of a budget amendment for Safety and Justice Challenge Grant renewal, and Jennifer Barnett, our budget director, will explain this item.
I'm actually going to turn it over to Tiffany, who is our Justice Services Director, and she's going to provide you with some additional content around the award.
Okay, great.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm here with some exciting news. So I have with myself Hannah Ledgerton, and we're going to give you guys an update. You might have seen some media last week that our department was awarded another $1.75 million. And this is also a perfect time to give update about the work we've been doing over the past 2.5 years. So real quickly, we'll just give a brief overview of the grant, the initiative, what we've done kind of year to date or since 2018, the progress we've made, what our strategies will go moving forward, and then requesting to accept the budget and the grant. So the Safety and Justice Challenge is a initiative that started in 2015 by the John T. and Catherine D. MacArthur Foundation, awarding jurisdictions across the country up to $2 million to look at their local jails and figure out how to rethink and reuse jails to reduce incarceration. So our award to date has been about $3.5 million, and there are 21 implementation sites, including our county, that are working towards local reform efforts to be more effective and equitable, ensuring that we are enhancing public safety and addressing racial and ethnic disparities. Our original goal was 15%, and we were able to reach that goal of 30% between January 2019 and, February 2019 to January 2001. It took us a little while to get there. We were awarded the initial $50,000 back in 2016, and that specifically was to work around DV prevention and working with defendants charged with domestic violence and giving them specialized pretrial supervision and monitoring those charged with domestic violence. Because of the success that went into that grant and having structured supervision in our pretrial services department and the collaboration that we were doing as a county with our justice partners, we were awarded the $1.75 million in October 2018. It took a while to really understand the scope and breadth of what we were trying to undertake, so we went through some infrastructure development. We had to plan, hire staff, and were able to effectively implement in September 2019 most of our strategies, and now we were invited to apply again. Not all counties or jurisdictions were invited to reapply. We were provided with that invite, and our application spoke volumes to the providers and the foundation reviewing it, and we were renewed another $1.75 million. Currently, we have several positions that scope out some of the work in the Safety and Justice Challenge. We have several county-funded positions, including our pretrial screeners who do risk assessments in the jail. We have a grant manager that's responsible for managing the breadth of the grant, as well as a management analyst who does the data. One thing about the foundation, they want to measure how well we're doing, and so requiring data and being able to mine data from the courts, from the police department, from the county does take a full-time position. And then about some of our work, we want to improve efficiencies. We have a public defender. We provide funding to support that position to AOC, Administrative Office of the Courts, including assistant district attorney. And then there's a position that's specialized as a jail diversion case managers, which goal is to get people into detox treatment faster and coordinate with our local treatment providers to get folks stable in the community. Now, we've had several strategies that we were undertaking, and the color coordination is basically the dark orange is what we've been able to effectively implement. As you go into the lighter orange, it's things that we're either still trying to implement or we had to put a pause on just because of implementation strategies. I will say that we did undertake a lot in the first 2 years, and we realized that sometimes you have to be intentional and focus on one or two things. And so we learned that in our renewal, and Hannah will speak more about what we're looking forward to doing in the years to come. But just highlighting that the way we took our strategies was deflecting out arrest and booking. So any opportunities that we could get someone into treatment at the early intervention, how we could divert people who are struggling with behavioral health issues, looking at efficiencies in our pretrial services and in our case processing. So really those end up being those high-level cases, but making sure that we're efficient in how we process and move cases along. And then we had an underlaying of using data to make decisions, how do we engage community, and ensuring that we were also addressing the racial and ethnic disparities. So with all that being said, we did see some significant reductions. A lot of that led to, unfortunately, COVID happened, but we were able to implement a lot of the structures that we were talking about, and we were able to reduce the jail population. I think the lowest it was 42% during June and July. We did notice our disparities increase, and that's really about the disproportionality of the makeup of the jail. So as we were getting low-level defendants out of custody faster than the folks who posed a public safety risk or had more higher-level charges were being detained, and that's where you saw the disproportionality growth. And to that end, we also looked at investing money, and we talked about this or brought before you in the fall about the community safety initiative that we're using funds to help support and reduce gun violence and increase community safety. So as we're learning about the what we're seeing in the jail, we're trying to utilize the funds to help support and improve public safety through, again, using data. So some key outcomes for the first cycle was we were able to reach our target, and we're still maintaining that level. We do see a slight increase, but overall, we still have hitting our reduction targets. And there's not been an increase in reported crime during the same time period. I think that was a big thing to understand, like what is our impact to public safety? And also recidivism, we looked at, and this is an internal analysis looking at crime reports from publicly reported data, but looking at also recidivism rates, and 14% of those released on their own recognizances did not return in 2 months, compared to the 17% during the time of COVID. Some other outcomes that are more narrative and qualitative in nature, we implemented a racial equity tool, or developed it, and we're moving towards implementation of that. The JRAC's work in our racial equity work groups, work on racial equity, led to the declaration of racism as a public safety crisis that became before you, supporting HHSs as well, when the county declared racism a public health and a public safety crisis. We've been doing a lot of education and training in racial equity with our justice partners. We've hosted several community engagement events, going out during the time of pre-COVID, really being intentional in our outreach, surveying, focus groups, listening sessions. And we hosted a virtual town hall that had over 4,200 views. And then lastly, the announcement of our community safety and violence prevention, where we're going to work with community partners to move that work forward. And I will hand this off to Hannah.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Ms. Pender. We are glad to be here today and be able to confirm that we have been awarded the additional $1.75 million that we applied for. The proposal that we submitted to the MacArthur Foundation for the next 2 years is built around the 3 major goals of the MacArthur Foundation moving forward. Sustaining the jail reduction progress, both sustaining the gains that we have made most consistently over COVID, and ideally returning to the lowest point that we hit back in the summer. Advancing racial equity and building community engagement and trust. Additionally, we will also focus on sustainability planning during the coming years for how we can sustain the impacts that we've achieved when the grant funding concludes. So in preparation for submitting this renewal application, the SJC team compiled over 100 ideas through input from the community listening sessions that Tiffany mentioned that were hosted by the Community Engagement Work Group, input from the existing SJC work groups, and a specific work group that was formed from partners to focus on the renewal planning, interviews with Justice Resource Advisory Council members, And all of these ideas were compiled into a survey that went out to JRAC and SJC workgroup members to help us prioritize strategies to be included in the renewal. The JRAC then held work sessions to discuss which strategies they were committed to supporting and advancing moving forward. And the community engagement work group gathered additional community input through phone calls and an online survey. Finally, county staff conferred with Vera, our technical assistance providers, and the MacArthur Foundation to confirm the alignment of the strategies that were really rising to the top priorities for our partners, as well as in alignment with the SJC goals. So we've narrowed our strategy buckets down to 5, still have a lot of moving parts, but in the next 2 years, we are proposing focusing on enhancing pretrial release strategies, including increasing pre-arrest and jail diversion strategies or opportunities, increasing efficiencies in case processing, including continuing the jail review team that was formed in the past year, and increasing the use of court notification systems. And really intentionally focusing on advancing racial equity. One new position that you'll see included in this budget is bringing on a racial equity consultant to help to guide the racial equity implementation, both from the Racial Equity Work Group's action plan, the priorities that were named by the JRAC and elevated to the Commissioner's Declaration on Racism as a Public Health Crisis as well. Increasing community engagement, including continuing to partner with community to identify root causes and to help shape interventions to address drivers of incarceration. And then the newer initiative that really came out of the work of the community engagement and racial equity work groups over the past 2 years of advancing community safety and violence prevention. That includes partnering with the local organizations that were awarded the contract to develop community programming and community-led responses to improving violence, or improving safety and reducing violence. And then also the work that we are still in developing of creating a strategic planning process to bring justice system stakeholders really into investing their commitments into that work. To move this work forward, 13 positions are included in the renewal budget, 10 that are county positions and 3 that are contracted, along with designated funding for the community engagement, racial equity work groups, as well as the community safety initiative. You see the positions detailed there. The pretrial screener positions are funded through the grant for the coming year, through January of 2022, with the intention of developing sustainability plans and moving some of that work up to the magistrate level. And I will pass it back to Tiffany at this point.
Thank you, Hannah. So lastly, what we're asking before you is to accept the grant, approve the related budget amendment, and then approve one new position, which is the racial equity grant funded position, and extend the 9 existing grant funded position as long as there are grant funding available. Any questions?
I don't see any questions right now, commissioners, or are there any questions or motion?
If I,
The first-
if I could just take a moment just to say thank you, that this is an extraordinary amount of hard work has gone into this, this is like getting a shuttle up in the air kind of level of work. So I just want to lift up and thank all the staff, y'all and your leadership, but all the many people and many people across agencies and different county departments who are working on this. And it's really something to see the needle starting to move and the progress that's happening and the momentum around that. So Sports Commission is a lot of fun, but JRAC is also a lot of fun. And I'm honored to get to be part of this work, but just it's always good to pause in these moments and celebrate a grant, but also this wouldn't have been renewed if not for the work that was going into it every day. So great work, you all, and thank you for the leadership.
Thank you.
I also want to say that I really love that you all were listening to some of the needs and the gaps that were not there. And I'm really excited for you all to come back in some period of time and talk to us more about this specific component of advancing community safety and violence prevention with the contracts. I think that is such a key to long-term success of this work, and I'm really pleased to see that you all have included that moving forward. So well done and congratulations.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to accept, do we need to do separate motions on this? Or can we do one?
To accept the grant, and then one to accept the positions, and one to accept
Okay.
the budget, to make the budget.
I'll make a motion to accept the grant. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll make a motion to approve the related budget amendment.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And last, I'll make a motion to approve the 1 new and extend 9 grant-funded positions as long as the grant funding is available. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you so much. This is fantastic work, and we really appreciate the updates and great news. Okay, commissioners, we come to our board appointments. We had interviews with a bunch of great members of the community before our meeting earlier today. We need to make appointments to the Asheville Planning and Zoning Commission. We need to appoint 2 persons who must live within 1 mile of the city of Asheville, and we have 3 applicants, Randy Flack, Jennifer Bubinek, and Brenton Faircloth. So I'd like to ask each commissioner to identify the 2 persons that you'd prefer to appoint, and we will then add up which 2 get the most votes, and those 2 members will be appointed. I'll start, and then we'll go this way and go around this way. So I'm trying to mix it up a little bit. We always start with, keep you on your toes. It could come from any direction, so be ready.
Get ready.
All right. I will support Brenton Faircloth and Jennifer Bubinek.
I will support Brenton Faircloth and Jennifer Bubinek.
I will support Randy Flack and Brenton Faircloth.
I'll support Randy Flack and Jennifer Bubinek.
Amanda?
Randy Flack and Jennifer Bubinek.
Oh, me, Randy Flack and Brenton Faircloth.
Okay, and I'll support Jennifer Bubinek and Brenton Faircloth.
Well, that was really close. I think that Jennifer Bubinek and Brenton Faircloth got 1 more than Randy Flack. But Lamar, did you reach the same conclusion?
I did.
Okay. All right, Jennifer Bubinek received 5 votes. Brenton Faircloth received 5 votes, and Randy Flack received 4 votes. So we appreciate all of them applying. And all right, next up is the Board of Equalization and Review. We have 2 vacancies for 3 positions. Let's just do the same thing. I'll start. I'm going to nominate 2, and the top 2 vote getters will get it. Michael Holgate and Mark Morris.
I support Michael Holgate and Steve Aceto.
Michael Holgate and Mark Morris.
Mark Morris and Steve Aceto.
Michael Holgate and Mark Morris.
Mark Morris and Steve Aceto.
And I'm going to go with Michael Holgate and Mark Morris.
All right, I believe that Michael Holgate and Mark Morris received the most votes. All right, finally, we come to the Buncombe County Planning Board. And this one is a little bit more complicated because we have to appoint some folks from districts and then some folks at large. So we have one person who needs to be from the Asheville City School District, one person from the Irwin School District, and then we can appoint one person from anywhere in the county. So what I'd like to do first is to appoint one person from the Asheville City School District. And the two applicants are Kelsey Wood and Timothy Collins. So let's just all go down and identify which person we would prefer for the city school district position. I'm going to start, and I'm going to vote for Timothy Collins.
I will vote for Timothy Collins.
Kelsey Wood.
Tim Collins.
Tim Collins.
Kim Collins.
That's a tough one. I'm gonna go with Kelsey Wood.
They're both, we have great candidates for all
Yeah.
these positions. So Timothy Collins gets the city school district position. Now, keep in mind, the candidates, if they're not appointed to a district position, could theoretically be appointed at large, okay? So, but first, let's nail down these district positions, and then we'll go from there. Now we have the Irwin district, and we have two candidates. We need to choose one. The candidates are Ken Kahn and Sandra Hutchinson. I'll start. I'm going to support Ken Kahn.
I support Ken Kahn.
Ken Con.
Ken Con.
Ken Con.
Ken Con.
And Ken Con.
All right, very good. So Ken Kahn got that Irwin position. Now we have the at-large position, and we need to vote for one person. The candidates are James Young, Marianne Rakoff, Cindy Vishnick-Weeks, as well as the people who did not get appointed to a district seat, which would be Kelsey Wood and Sandra Hutchinson. So there's a lot more applicants for this spot. It's not just one or the other. I don't know if there would like to be any discussion on this before we enter into this. I think there's a lot of great candidates here who could do a great job. I'm personally leaning towards supporting Cindy Vishnick-Weeks, who has planning experience, as well as is active in the construction industry and has extensive experience in building and development and affordable housing. So anyway, I just would share that. Do any other commissioners have any comments before we kind of dive into voting on this? There's other very good candidates as well.
I just kind of echo that and say, as the former at-large member on that board, I think it really behooves us to appoint someone with broader industry experience, planning experience, and really kind of, or making other appointments focus on geography and districts and that sort of thing for those interests.
I agree.
Okay, let's just go through and see what happens. I'm going to support Cindy Vishnick-Weeks.
I'll also support Cindy Vishnick-Weeks.
I'll support Cindy.
James Young.
Cindy Vishnick-Weeks.
Cindy Weeks.
Cindy Weeks.
Okay, very good. Cindy Weeks got the most votes. There's been some discussion, Ms. Pender, while we were doing the interviews for these planning commission seats. Of course, we're going to be doing the comprehensive plan with community involvement, and we understand there's going to be a community kind of steering committee on that. And I know all the details of that, how that's going to be created, haven't been worked out yet. But I think just one thing a number of commissioners were interested in is that some of the candidates who got a lot of support for planning board but didn't actually get appointed, I heard a lot of comments that some of these folks could be potentially outstanding members to consider for that. So we'd like to maybe just sort of encourage y'all to think about that and what the process is to do that. Because a lot of these folks are very interested in this kind of planning and land use issues with great experience. All right, commissioners, that completes our boards and commission appointments.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We have one more appointment, that's
Right. So we need to,
That is actually one of the commissioners. It needs to be an elected position for that role.
Ah,
I'm sorry, which position?
So on your agenda, it lists that we were going to do an appointment for the local emergency planning committee. It's a board that we talked about a couple of meetings ago. And it is in consent agenda to form that actual, committee. And it has to be an elected official that is going to be appointed by this board.
Okay, thanks for the reminder.
so one of us.
So one of us, but
What do we know about how often this group will meet and the,
So I'll go ahead and turn and ask Angie Ledford if she can just talk a little bit about this group.
Good evening, Commissioners. The Local Emergency Planning Commission was established by the Community Emergency Planning Right to Know Act back in 1986. This is a committee that focuses on hazardous materials planning, and we have sporadically had an active committee over the past 15 or so years, but in looking back through the records, we never found a resolution where it was officially created. So that was the reason for it being on the consent agenda. It does require an elected official as one of the mandated slots. And right now, we are planning on having bi-monthly meetings. The next one being, I think it's March the 2nd. And the meetings are currently being held virtually. So it'd be a once every 2 months commitment.
thank you.
Commissioner Edwards, would you be willing to serve?
I would be happy to serve.
I'd like to nominate Amanda Edwards. All in favor, please say aye.
aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Commissioner. All right,
Thank you.
thanks for catching that. Do we have a need for a closed session this evening? Terrific. Good.
It's typically good news.
Put that under good news. I have a couple of announcements to make. On March 2nd at 3 p.m., the commissioners will hold their briefing meeting at 200 College Street, room 326 in downtown Asheville. On March 2nd at 5 p.m., the commissioners will hold their next regular meeting at 200 College Street, room 326 in downtown Asheville. Mr. Joyner, are there any other interviews that we need to discuss now for other boards and commission appointments?
Not
Okay.
at this time.
Is there a motion to adjourn? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned.